All right, we are live. This is Campfire number 13. It's been a wild ride, very interesting and joyful ride, I will say. And today, I'm really pleased to welcome Ahmed Mabrouk to our
Mm.
show. Welcome, Ahmed. Thank you for being here. Um, well, briefly, can you tell us what time it is for you right now?
Yeah, it's 1 a.m. right now for me.
1 a.m. And
Yeah,
yeah, and the audience will discover why that is. But you're joining us from another continent altogether. So we'll talk about that. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for joining. As always, you can ask your questions in the chat. We are live on YouTube, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions for myself or Ahmed, you can ask those questions in the chat, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. So, one more thing. You can also join us. I was gonna almost forget. You can also join us and ask your questions live by following this link. So if you follow this link, https url.newcamp.co/dial-in, that's actually going to bring you directly into Restream, which is the software we're using to stream this event, and you'll be able to join, with your microphone on, your camera on. You'll be able to join us and ask your questions live, and even have a conversation with us. So don't hesitate to do that as well. All right. So that being said, I really want to welcome you again, Ahmed, for joining us. Why don't you actually introduce yourself? Where you're from,
yeah,
what you're doing during the day, and give us, a little bit of background on yourself, and especially where you live right now.
yeah. Thanks so much, Lulu. Thanks for having me today. Okay, my name is Ahmed Brook. As you said, I'm from Africa. I live in Cairo, Egypt. So this is why it's 1 a.m. Right now. Let's talk about my day. I work as a senior DevOps engineer or a DevOps specialist. And my daily life is to create CI/CD pipelines, um, play around with Kubernetes, Docker, fixing some bugs, production bugs and issues, different DevOps tasks. And this is my daily life. And about my journey and about my career, I started as a backend engineer uh, uh, in a startups, but in startup you don't only do backend. I do a little bit of
Oh
front
yeah.
end testing and so on. Then I shifting to work in Vodafone as an integration engineer. This is when I first introduced with enterprise companies and the enterprise workflow. So I got a lot of information. I was lucky to be joining with a good management, and I know a lot about how to ship code to productions that serve millions of customers and how to be responsible for this code. Then I was very, very curious about DevOps, about Docker, Kubernetes, automations, and all this stuff. So I taught myself online a couple of courses. Then the management found this interesting, and they gave me more tasks. Like,
Oh
let's do
wow.
environments. Let's migrate from virtualization to containerizations. So I get my hand dirty and the integration teams, and I shift for the DevOps team in Vodafone. And yeah, this is was my journey
Oh,
until
that's really impressive, and we'll talk about your background as well. But just to summarize, so you're in Egypt, you're in Cairo, right? You live in Cairo.
yes,
Um, and we actually were looking for DevOps instructors. I think it was back in November. We just really
yes,
started and launched our backend with Python bootcamp, and one module, a 4 weeks module, is all about Docker deployment, the three clouds. And so we were looking for instructors to really deliver that last module, and we actually found each other online. And
yes,
you've been a terrific instructor, and we'll get into that. But I just want to
yes,
help the audience really understand what you're doing right now. Vodafone is your company, and I don't know if everyone knows it in the US, because Vodafone actually is not very much in the US, but it's
yes,
a leading telecom provider in Europe and Africa. Uh,
yes,
I think it may be the number one, I
yeah,
guess, or very close to the number one. So huge telecom provider. Think of it as, AT&T, T-Mobile,
Yeah,
Vodafone is really up there. So big company, huge network and engineering needs.
yeah,
Uh, and so you joined Vodafone as a backend developer, and then you really
kind of.
developed that interest in Docker, in Kubernetes, in the deployment pipelines, and that's what you're teaching right now with us at New
Yeah,
Camp. Let's talk about how you got started in the development world. Let's talk about your education. So, are you a traditionally educated kind of computer science degree person? Are you a self-taught person? Can you tell us about how you actually got into it in the first
yeah.
place?
Yeah. I'm a CS student. I graduated from computer science university, and I
Okay,
got my degree as a software engineer.
great.
Basically, in college, as a software engineer, you just taught at basic developments. I have
Yeah.
one course for web developments. That's it
Oh
throughout
yeah.
4 years. Uh,
Which
and
language?
the
Which language did
It
you
was
learn?
C sharp. The common theme
Oh,
here
C
in
sharp. Yeah.
yes, C sharp and C++.
Yeah.
We didn't have any Java, but this is when it comes challenging because as the last year we was having the graduation project and we have to develop a website.
Hmm.
I was self-taught Laravel, part of training and self-taught Laravel, which is most of the common PHP frameworks. And one of the colleagues in my teams actually have experience about Java and Spring Boot.
Oh
And
yeah.
they decided, okay, guys, we're gonna go for Spring Boot or Laravel. This is what we are experienced with, and we decided to go with Node and Mini Stack at the end in order to maybe share knowledge and have much amount of knowledge and coding and know more frameworks. So this is my educational background. I'm traditional CS students that self-taught himself the technical part because college doesn't
Yeah.
give you this much information about how the market go and how to develop a website and so on.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's a
right. A
little
lot of
bit
people
different.
are kind of surprised when they hear that. It doesn't. It's still very helpful and useful. I mean, wouldn't you say that your computer science education is quite helpful to you on a day-to-day basis?
Yes, of course. At the beginning of my career, of course, being as a CS graduate, I know an if conditions, I know a loop algorithm, that structure
Yeah.
and operating OP. And for any company who would interview a fresh graduate, this is a measurement that you can measure. I
Yeah.
cannot measure you if you develop a cool website or a front end HTML and CSS. I need you to have to be a back end, even if you don't know how to create a website or how to create a microservice. But if you know algorithm, that structure, this will give you the job, to be honest.
Yeah. Let's actually bring some of the comments I'm seeing here from
Okay.
people who apparently were a student of
Yeah,
yours. So
yeah,
Nesta,
that's tough.
one of the best new camp instructors,
Taking that stuff.
and we'll talk about and Igo as well, saying hi. Um, is that's I don't know if that
That's
will
right.
compile Career 23, but it's a good try for coding. So
Yes,
let's talk about um, what you're doing at New Camp. Let's talk about this last module because there's a story of that last module in the Python curriculum. Um, so yeah, let me talk about it, and then we'll talk about what you've done with it. So when we launched the first Python bootcamp, that was in August. So the very first cohort started last August, and it was a beta program. So we only had a small portion of students going through it. We also opened the curriculum for free for our past graduates, um, and it went really great up to that last module. So the last module is 4 weeks, and it's really the DevOps module. It's where we talk about Kubernetes. It's where we talk about Docker. It's where we actually have students set up their Amazon AWS environment, Google Cloud environment, Microsoft Azure environment. And so that's very much the backend aspect of it, but the deployment aspect of it. And the very first delivery of that was when you just started. I think it was in December or maybe
yes.
November.
December, I start in December. Yeah.
December. And it was not ready. We were that close to thinking about putting it off altogether and asking students to wait another month so that we will actually ship it. We actually finished the content and we delivered it, but we immediately told students, hey, it's there, it's for you. It's not exactly the level of quality that we expect to deliver. So we did a ton of refunds. We invited students to go back and take the course again in January. But it was a challenging moment for New Camp. And we had to really handle, of course, students understanding it was beta, but still, when it's beta, you still expect a decent level of quality. I don't think we actually were there. We were very much shy of, 2 points of quality rating for that course. And then we had to handle also you and other instructors who were on the hook to still deliver that course to students. And something really amazing for me happened. And what was amazing for me was the students were providing the feedback on the course. And when they provide feedback on the instructors and then provide feedback on the content. We got what we kind of deserved on the content, which wasn't really pretty. So the feedback on the content wasn't really good, and we kind of were expecting that, and we apologize, and we did the right thing to make it better. But then the content on the instructor was still very high. And that was really a testament of how much students value having, the support of quality instructors, dedicated instructors that can actually make up for what we did not deliver from a content standpoint. And so I want to share with everyone that you were one of the very first instructors to deliver that course. And if I look at what students had to say, so that was from November 29th to December 25th. This is just unbelievable. Your average rating for that one course out of 5. Do you know what it is? Do you remember what it is?
No, I can't remember.
Your average rating for that course was 4.97.
Okay.
4.97. And that's mind-blowing. So what we failed to deliver in terms of content back in December, you made up for it by strides, and students were still ecstatic about having you as an instructor. And since then, you've delivered, I think you're delivering DevOps for the 3rd time, and your average rating right now sits at 4.92, which is pretty much unheard of. So I just wanted to point that out. I want to tell for anyone who's listening, that course has been fixed since, and it's actually now one of the highest rated course that we have delivered. So we're feeling pretty good about it now. So if you're and I'm seeing Moses is like, we'll be there soon. Moses, don't worry. The course is doing fantastically well. It's going to equip you with, how to actually deploy to the 3 main clouds, and you're going to love it. But let me actually, let me now turning to you, and can you describe that course? What are you teaching in that course? Why do you think it matters? You are very much a DevOps person. Why do you think DevOps and learning DevOps matters in today's world?
Yeah, so if we're talking about today's world, actually, if we look about the topics in the computer science or the software industry in general, you can find some hot topics like Ethereum and the blockchain and DevOps, machine learning, and the science. And one of the most hot right now is DevOps, because a lot of tooling coming out, a lot of improvements, a lot of features, and the capability and the things that you can do with DevOps is actually mind-blowing for me at the start, to automate everything, to see your code going from just pushing to the Git repository to be deployed, and Slack give you a notification like, hey, I see you just commit your code, you want to merge it? Yes, merge this code. The ability of having much bots to operate monitorings, like if your system failed, you can just get a Slack notification, hey, your system failed at maybe 3 a.m. and I fixed it like by this automation script that you build.
Wow.
So the automation fields, the abilities that you can actually give people the ability to deploy and automate all of the hard works that they have, and to open their eyes about things that they didn't imagine. They imagine, okay, I just developed the code on my laptop and it sits there. I need to find a server and that's it. But if you tell him, okay, yeah, finding a server is something cool. This is the beginning of a great ocean. You will introduce to something called Kubernetes to auto scale and to self heal and a lot of things, a lot of features. And to explain this for them in real world examples, like if we maybe having an MBA match, we expecting millions and millions of traffic. We scale up like this without any problem. So
Yeah.
this actually make me excited to start in learning DevOps and to share my knowledge about the DevOps and teaching DevOps as something that I've been thinking about like maybe 6 months ago. I love to share my knowledge. I want to share my knowledge. I don't know how, so I just started by writing some couple of articles on Medium and LinkedIn. It didn't go well. I wrote nothing. So I thought about opening a YouTube channel, but there is a lot of challenging. I need to learn about editing and so on, and this is only failed. Then for some reason, I opened my phone one day and start looking for Upwork opportunities, and I found the looking for an instructor and teaching. And I said, okay, this is cool. I don't have an account, so I created an account and submitted, and I got
Oh, I
interviewed.
didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
So
we connected on Upwork, but I didn't know you were not on Upwork. You were not necessarily looking for a job at the time. You were just
yeah,
wanted to have an impact, I guess, and learn
yes.
and give to others.
Yes. This is something
Oh
actually
wow.
drive me actually like crazy. I love to share my knowledge. I love to see people understand new things. I love to taught them and mentor them throughout this black mirror. So whenever I have a student or something like this, I try to tell him it's like a black window with this wall, and I try to break this wall as much as possible with you to open and bring light to your room. And this room is your thankful and your mindset. So this
Yeah.
is something what drives me to share my knowledge, and this is what I can deliver to students, and this is what they have from me, and give these feedbacks and these words.
Oh,
So yeah,
this is
this is
great. And we're gonna take a few questions. And I just saw Franklin actually pop up on Restream. Franklin, I think is an instructor with us. I'd love for you to join us. That'll be fun. Check your mic, check your video, and pop in again, and we'll bring you onto the floor and have a conversation with Ahmed. So let's actually. There's a few questions for you regarding DevOps. Let's see. And there's another one on the graduates getting jobs that I'll take right after that. But okay, so Code Thin is asking, do you have a preference between the 3 deployment clouds or something else? And as context, you're teaching with us how to deploy to Amazon AWS,
yes,
Google Cloud, and Microsoft Azure, which pretty much are the top 3. There's a ton of other services out there,
yes.
Netlify, HeroQ. But so what do you have a preference, or do you actually, personally, do you prefer another cloud or another service?
No. I actually this is more. This is I cannot prefer cloud. This would be crazy. But actually, the if I have to rank them, it would be different from the situation. So for general purposes, companies intended to use AWS.
Yeah.
So the big companies go for AWS. Like we're talking about Netflix, about talking about Meta, for example, sign a deal to have all the metaverse servers and services on AWS. So it's really great to learn AWS. And by the way, AWS is far ahead when it comes to services from Azure and GCP. Number 2 would be Azure because it's pretty common when it comes to um, government projects and regulations projects, something like this. So the health industry would go for Azure. The government industry would go for Azure because back in the day, they trust Microsoft. So try to maybe push for Azure. And again, GCP will be the most favor if the company actually go for Kubernetes. So
I
if they
see.
deploy application set Kubernetes, GCP will be the king. Because I actually saw a show one day, one of the Google engineers go for the stage and open his Android phone or whatever phone he have, and he said, "Hello Google, can you please create my Kubernetes cluster with 5 workers node and 2 masters node?" And it was like this. Google creates them via command. You don't have to have a script. You
It's
don't have
crazy.
to write Terraform script or learn anything. It's just, okay, Google, create me something like this. And this was very, very crazy.
We have to make a pause here because people, I think, I know what it looks like to deploy an application to either, customers around the world or corporate entities. And I'll say 15, 20 years ago, if you wanted to serve a country, just, a country, Egypt, France, United States, you will have to think about deploying hardware, in data centers. Well, first you will
Yes.
have to wish that you had your own data centers. I mean,
Yes.
every company had their own data centers that they had to connect, through pipes or VPN, because you have to use the public internet and then create tunnels
Yeah.
through that. But just thinking about deploying a US wide or country-wide application, you had to plan for it, for 6 months
Yes.
for 9 months. You had to make a capacity planning. How much hardware
Yeah.
do we need? How much disk do we need? How much memory do we need? How big needs to be the pipe?
Yes.
And you have to make all those plans, based on the number of users that you're going to get. And oftentimes you will know, okay, we're going to be able to handle the typical workload. We probably will crash, for Christmas, because
Yes.
we won't be able to handle that load. But we won't be able to pay for it because handling that load at the time meant a ton of expense that then will go wasted. Because why
Yes.
would you spend that much hardware and pipe just for one day? And knowing that now pretty much anyone, like you, me, any student out there, can just dream an application and dream about serving millions and millions of people, and adjust the spend and the cost of that depending on demand. I mean, people can think it's like natural, but it's kind of insane in terms of
Yes.
concept,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That's the magic of it. And what you're describing here, which is, hey, just give me the infrastructure I need to serve millions of users, or become the next Netflix tomorrow.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And
Just
having
with
that at
okay
your
Google command.
fingertips, yeah, having that at your fingertips is just insane. I mean, people
Yeah,
have to
yeah, it is
realize that.
actually insane. Back in the day, when you're saying this, people can't imagine if you do one small calculation wrong,
Yeah,
you pretty much screwed because you can't scale up. If you need to scale up, it will be need another 6 months of planning and
yeah,
shipping and ordering for the hardware, setting up, and all of this will cost the company even much, much higher costs than they expect in the Christmas. And after the Christmas, when the traffic goes back down, they don't need these hardwares anymore.
yeah.
So yeah, right now we're living in the world of automations and monitoring and all of this. This is by the help of DevOps and the DevOps culture that had been built like 10 years ago. And this is, yeah,
Exactly. Like Wordle, and there's a new big trend right now in terms of gaming in the US. I don't know if it's reached Egypt. It's a Wordle. It's a word game. It became super popular, super fast, and then the New York Times bought it. But without DevOps, without Kubernetes, without Dockers, Wordle probably could not happen or could not work. And the
yeah,
reason is Wordle is very time-based. Like, people will wake up in the morning and they will do the daily Wordle in the morning. So I can imagine that the spike in traffic will be very heavy from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
and that's
and
it.
then nothing every day, right?
Yes,
And so New York Times, Wordle, they have to figure out, okay, how are we going to make
optimize.
sure that the servers are ready for that spike, and then nothing
Yes,
else afterwards. Like, nobody cares at 3 p.m. Everybody's done with it.
yeah,
And so that's
yes,
what really DevOps and cloud allows people to do, is to just dynamically,
yeah,
redefine, redevelop what is needed.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, this is just fantastic. Let's take another question here. All right. So New Camp recommends and I'll say the Python course before the full stack course. Can you share the reasoning for that order of the boot camps? I'm in the Python class right now and loving it. So I know I know why. Do you know why? Do you have an opinion on that?
I don't understand. He asked, the DevOps is before the full
So it's
stack
not really the
course.
DevOps, it's the
Yeah,
Python. It's a Python bootcamp. So let me
yeah, yeah.
explain why. So
Okay.
So the Python bootcamp is a backend bootcamp, and we don't focus on front end. We don't focus on JavaScript and HTML and
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yes.
Because it's a backend bootcamp, we really focus on the programming concepts first. So the very first course is data structure and algorithms with Python.
Yes.
And so that's very much, we're focusing on the fundamentals of programming. We're focusing, and you could say the fundamentals of computer science as well, right? When you talk about
Yes.
data
Yes.
structure, algorithm, then we go into SQL. So it's kind of the fundamentals of data structure advanced and how you think about SQL model and things like that. So really and then we go into DevOps and deployment in the 3 clouds. And so if you start with that, you really are going to grasp the fundamentals of data structure, of algorithm, of programming, which is why we recommend it first, because you are exposed to that. And then picking up JavaScript becomes easier because you're just applying what you just learned in Python in JavaScript.
Yeah.
And it's also because Python is way more forgiving in terms of syntax.
Yeah.
Like in JavaScript, you can spend hours because you've missed a semicolon. That happens
Yeah.
way less in Python.
Yeah, and there is the JavaScript. Yeah, JavaScript only have this callbacks. So
Yeah.
if you miss things with the callbacks, you pretty much screwed.
Yeah, it's right. That's right.
Yeah, and I believe another opinion about this to add to your opinion is uh, in the full stack. I believe we're going to ask you to create a two-tier applications and using a Flask or Django framework. So
Yeah.
we will start using something like this. So if you don't know how to write a function, how to write a code in order to create this, the framework will make it easy for you just to type the code. So you need to have understanding about creating variables, creating classes, creating functions, play around with this. So yeah, this is why it's important to learn the basics and go for the professional part.
That's right. That's right. Let's answer Kevin Hidalgo question here.
Okay.
What percentage of your graduates get jobs, and is there a job assistant program, and what is it? So this is a very interesting and important topic. I'm super passionate about this one. Right now, what we measure is students who are employed and are applying their skills to their jobs. So there's 2 questions for that. Are you employed? Are you applying your coding skills in your job? The result of that is actually on our website. It's updated daily, and it's also saved monthly, so you can actually check what we did. There's a ton of controversy in the education space overall, and it's not just coding bootcamp, I've recently realized, but it's also for-profit, non-for-profit colleges and universities that are misleading their students with wrong job placement data.
Yeah.
And everybody is fixated on the job placement data because there's a need to justify the very high cost of education. I mean, you're from Africa and Egypt. I'm from France. There is no really conversation the same way there is in the US around, are you going to get a job, or what kind of, how many students get a job after their education? Because education is free, and education organizations are really measured on the quality of their education. Getting a job, and I'm actually of that mindset, getting a job is the responsibility of the student. And it's really depending on how good the student has performed. Of course, there's a huge component that's about the quality of education, but ultimately, the quality of education that has been received is probably, 30% of the total reason for a student getting a job or not getting a job. Were you a good student first? Like, did you get A grades, or did you get D or F grades?
I get P. I get P. So after
I got C's. Don't tell my kids, but I was kind of a C student myself. Like, lots of
Okay.
potential, but a little bit lazy.
So it's not about the grades and the education. To be honest with you, my opinion is let's take it from new camp perspective, not as a college perspective. Yeah. So I will tell you my experience, my personal experience is my duty is not only to give them the course or the slides or whatever the content they should have. I actually go more on a high step. Like, in order to get a job as a DevOps engineer, you should know 1, 2, 3, 4. And in order to, this is how the day life of a DevOps engineer will look like. And these are the questions that you will expect as a DevOps interview. And these are the skills that you need to have as a DevOps engineer. And by the way, the graduate from New Camp is not only for going for hunting for DevOps opportunity, as you hunting for Python, they hunting for full stack, front end, and different topics. So, and they taught with different instructors. So it's the responsibility of students to go a little bit an extra step, an extra mile by getting more information and getting more courses and try to apply. It's okay to fail one or two or three interviews, but you get an experience and you get to understand what the questions is. So getting a job is not specific it's not about I'm graduated for Harvard, I can
Yeah.
work for NASA and something like this. There is a lot of part on you. So this, in
Yeah,
my opinion.
exactly. It's about the skill that you gained. And so I think to wrap up that conversation with the question from Kevin, Newcamp's accountability and promise to you is to provide quality education. We're
Yes.
going to do everything we can, and we're measuring that day in and day out to provide great instructor and great content, great support. So we do have job assistance program. We have career coaches. We're doing
Yes.
our best to provide that, and we want to provide it in a way that's super affordable. So there's no risk, no string attached. We never want to be in a situation to have to deceive our audience and justify increasing our tuition price or providing crazy pricing like some are doing out there. Like we'll never charge you $30,000 pretty much for an online course.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and that's the vicious circle that's going on right now in the US is education organization justifying what cannot be justified in terms of cost. Like it's not justifiable to charge $15,000 or $30,000 for an online course. It's just not. But we are justifying that because they're saying, hey, but look, 99% of my graduates are getting jobs. And all of a sudden it feels like, oh, okay, well, if 99% are getting jobs, then I don't mind paying the money. And it's completely surreal because then all of a sudden students are losing sight of the true value of what they're signing up for.
Yes.
Like that thing is not worth $15,000, even less $30,000. But
Yes.
all of a sudden, because we're telling you, hey, you're going to be able to pay it back, don't worry, you're going to get a job. Then all of a sudden, it's okay. It's not. It's actually not.
Not
It's
okay.
not
It's not
okay.
okay. Yes.
And
Yes. If you hired with this company and the company will tell you, hey, we're gonna teach this. Yeah, you're getting the job. This is 100%. You're getting the job, and then you're gonna taught yourself or they improve your skills. But
yeah,
there is no guarantee for anyone to tell you, hey, come,
exactly.
I
And
will teach this.
and it's also contrary, I think, to the American ideal. And I'm sorry, I'm getting kind of excited about that. But the American ideal is you're going to work hard for something and you're going to be able to accomplish that dream. An education organization telling you that 99% of students are getting the same thing pretty much means that what you do doesn't matter. That it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you're an A student or if you're an F student, everybody's going to get it.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
it's totally contrary to the belief in empowering your students to work hard and get it. It's actually removing kind of a destiny or self-choice in terms of what are you going to be able to accomplish. It's kind of removing the burden and the accountability that students should feel to be the
Yes.
best at what they can be, and kind of saying, hey, don't worry, we're going to take care of it. And by the way, that's also connected with then those organizations kind of creating contracts that makes you a little bit dependent on them. Like all of a sudden, you're going to give your money to them. They're going to control where you can work, how you can, which employers is going to pay you, and how they're going to actually take the money from your bank account. So it's a very vicious circle that I do not want to be part of. I do not want Newcamp to be part of.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and all right, I'm done. I'm done talking about it. But that's very, it's very dear to my heart. That type of situation right now. So anyway, thank you, Gavin, for bringing it up. And thank you. Yeah, and apparently you had the same experience as well.
Okay.
So let's talk about you again. Let's talk about Ahmed, so one of your traits, one of the things that define you is you're always learning. You
Yes.
really care about learning, improving, teaching others is part of that journey. How how do you think about always learning? Like, how do you make it real? How do you practically? I mean, you have a full time job and you are an instructor on the side. How do you carve out time to always learn? How do you challenge yourself to make it a reality? Because it's easy to be complacent and feel like, okay, I know enough now. I can just
Yes.
sail for the rest of my career.
Yes.
How do you make it real?
Yes. So we start by make just fall in love with what you're doing, whether it was coding or anything else, engineering or medical department. Start by doing the things that you love, and this when you come that you will have a passion. So myself, I have a lot of passion when it comes to coding and DevOps topics recently. So if I try to explain this, it's like you are in the middle of the ocean and you try to. There is a big wave coming to you, and this is like I need to learn Kubernetes and I get to get certified in Kubernetes, for example. So I studied it really hard. I found the time. I scheduled a weekly hours to study this. I put timelines. I need to cover the course in maybe 1 month or 2 months. I practice and practice. I base the certificate. I go for exams and I get it. And once I get it, I found the new things. I found AWS certificates. I need to learn AWS. I need to learn this technology and so on. So this is the big stuff. This is AWS and Kubernetes. This is something like a 1 month or 2 months plan of studying. There is something also in just a minor in a daily basis. So if there is a topic in my daily work, like hey, we have this Sonar Cube testing automation software. So I go back home, I try it, I open my laptop, watch a lot of YouTube videos, read a lot of
Yeah.
articles, try it out just to gain information with passions, nothing else. And actually, like this, this is from my bottom of my heart, and this is from my passion. I enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy.
Oh, you're still there? Are you with us? Ahmed, are you still with us? Dang. We lost Ahmed, but right at the same time, we have William joining us. um, let's give it a try. William, I'm going to bring you onto the floor. Hey, William. Oh, I don't know that we can hear you, William. Is your mic on? You are live on the show, and we cannot hear you, unfortunately. All right, so William, I'm going to remove you from the stream, but you can chat with me privately.
Yeah.
Are you here?
Yeah.
All
Hello?
right, and Ahmed is back as well. Yes. Hey, Ahmed.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for that. I don't know. I just went to black and yeah, I'm so sorry for that.
So,
Hello, William,
Ahmed,
how
we
are
actually
you?
have a guest. We have William as well. So, William, you just joined. I think we can hear you now. Do you you mind
Okay.
introducing yourself? And maybe, I mean, if you have a question, please ask your question.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question. How hard is it to actually get into coding? Is the devs the best way to go, or is it like collecting data scientists, or which way is the best way to get started?
Let me maybe take that one. It's a great
Yeah.
question. Where are you calling us from, by the way, William? I see a kind of a tools behind you. Where are you calling from?
Actually, I'm at my work right now.
Oh, cool.
I'm actually in the beginning part of maintenance.
Oh, nice. All right. So
I'm kind of wanted to switch my role.
yeah, that makes total sense. How hard is it? It is challenging, right? If it was too easy, you will see like millions of people do it. So it's not that easy. It is challenging, um, and you mentioned coding, and you mentioned data analytics or data scientist. I would say that data scientists, if you're thinking about that, it will require a lot of additional knowledge,
Okay.
right? So that if you think of data scientists, before being able to be a data scientist, you need to do some data analytics. You need to do a little bit of programming before. So data scientists will be at the end of the journey, not the beginning.
Okay.
I think at first, what you really want to do is uh, start. Well, first, coding is probably the best route into it. So learning to build, websites, learning to code, uh, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Very often, that's going to be the entry point into a new career in development. And so, the best recommendation I will have for you is try it without spending too much money and too much time. Actually, a little bit of time, but you could start with online courses that are, teaching HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We have a 4 weeks bootcamp that can also give you a taste of it, but I will just start there. I will just start with the fundamentals of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and that will help you check a few things. First, can you fit that type of learning into your schedule? You're full time, you have a job. I would say don't quit your job. Look for something that you can do part time, but at the same time, plan to really dedicate your off work hours to that. So meaning you probably won't have much of of evenings. You won't have much of weekends for a few weeks or a few months, and you'll have to really dedicate the time.
All right.
So where are you right now? Like what? How far along are you in your journey? Have you started to learn online? Have you contemplated joining a bootcamp?
Yeah, contemplated on a boot camp. I've done some Udemy courses.
Yeah.
I've learned some Python and some web development.
Okay. So you've tested that it was something you liked already.
Yes.
Great. So yeah, I mean, I would say there's no risk, I would say, in starting with the 4 weeks bootcamp that we have. If you've done Udemy already and you're like, okay, I want to join a bootcamp, I will start with the 4 weeks bootcamp. It's gonna give you a taste of, the schedule. It's gonna give you a taste of how new camp does thing. You're gonna, have an instructor like Ahmed, uh, and then after that, you'll be able to decide which way you want to go. You'll know, for example, if you're more of a front end kind of guy, if you like to design websites, or you'll know if you really like the coding aspect and you want to go into the Python backend first. So that's going to be, I think, a good next step for you.
Okay.
So yeah. Anything else you'd like to add, Ahmed?
Yes, I would like to add to you, as you said, Ludo, it will be challenging as the beginning. So at the start, like everything you will start doing for the first time, it will be challenging for a week, 2 or 3. But after this, it will be getting much easier. And once you found yourself and be in the positions that you see, oh, I did this in 3 weeks. And when I try to repeat it, I only do it in 2 days. This is when you find things getting really easy, and you will find another challenge. Maybe, okay, I finished the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript part. I will go for Python. I will go for C# courses and so on. So it will be another challenge for you. It will take you 1 month or 1.5 months to a good amount of knowledge when it comes to Python. But after this, you will be really familiar with the stack. You will be familiar with the projects, and you can create a project on only like 2 weeks or 1 month. And as you go on in your career, you're going to find a job. The first 2 weeks of your job will be hard, but after 5 or 6 months, it will be easy. The task will be much, much easier, and so on. So yes, I agree with you, Ludo, in this opinion.
Great.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, William, for joining. Really appreciate that you took the time. If you're ever joining us, say hi on Slack when you're joining the class. Okay.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, William.
All right. So where are we before you dropped out? Again, it's like probably 2 a.m. for you now, or close to 2 a.m.
Yeah, it's almost 2 a.m., but it's okay. Actually, this is the time I plan to study. So I study most of my courses from like maybe 10 p.m. up until 1 a.m. or 2 a.m.
Oh my God.
So this is my usual schedule for learning. The house is quiet, the streets is quiet. I can focus 1 or 2 hours. This is my schedule for learning new things actually.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I do enjoy that as well when you have no distraction around you and you can really stay focused. I
Yes,
wanted to say, I mean, we lost you when we were talking about the certifications you took. I mean, if
yes.
I looked at your LinkedIn profile, and it's actually really quite impressive. You have like how many certifications do you have?
I
Um,
have a CPA, the
you have
comprehensive
Postman.
one.
You have a credentials from Postman. You have AWS, Red Hat.
Yes, yes,
You have a credential for Dockers and Kubernetes from Pluralsight,
yes,
microservices architecture. You spent a ton of time on Kubernetes. I mean, the Linux Foundation. But I
yes,
can totally see, I mean, your commitment to learning, it's actually on your LinkedIn. You can see that. And it's really impressive. Ever since 2019, 18 even. So
yes,
congratulations for
yes,
doing that. It's tough. It's really tough because I mean, it's easy to, get absorbed by your day job. It's easy to get absorbed,
yeah,
of course, by a ton of other things. And there's, in a way, nothing wrong with that. But the challenge in
yes,
this profession is all of a sudden you can look back for the last 10 years and you haven't really learned any new things and the world has changed around you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, and
Exactly.
I mean, there's a ton of stories. There used to be a language, very famous language, COBOL. And
Okay.
there used to be a ton of developers in COBOL that had a really good salary, great compensation. They were working on COBOL, on mainframe. And I'm talking 40 years ago now. Uh,
Yeah, I never heard
but
about it. So yes.
there's a lot of people like that who actually got stuck,
Yeah,
really got stuck because it was a good life, really high paid. But then the industry changed around them and they did not evolve. They didn't actually pick
yes,
up, Java. I mean, at the time,
yeah,
COBOL was just, Java was kind of there. And
yes,
and it's going to happen to all of us. It's going to happen
yes,
to me. It's going to happen to you. It's going to happen to our students. We are learning JavaScript and React today. 5 years from now, if they're still just doing JavaScript and React, I can tell you
yeah,
they'll be in danger already. And so
yes,
that's something that everyone needs to realize in this industry. You're never done learning. And if you are, you're putting yourself in danger because things are going to change around you.
yes, yes.
So
Yeah, the world is changing and accelerating very, very fast. You need to adjust yourself. You need to be adaptive in order to learn new technologies. Don't say no, I don't want to learn Angular. Just have a little bit of information about Angular. You already experienced about React. If there is tomorrow a new frameworks or a new cloud provider,
yeah,
go learn and see what they are providing. You never know what's in the future. Be ready that maybe a company opens this department or you have these cool opportunities that you need to have in the different continent or different countries that you wish to go for, but you don't have these type of certificates or this type of technology
yeah.
in your skills, and this will affect you. So you never know what happened in tomorrow, so just get prepared.
And you mentioned YouTube as well as a way to kind of stay up to date. I totally agree with you actually because it blends entertainment and learning.
Yeah,
Um, I know a series, and there's a great YouTuber that I really admire actually, Jeff, and I'm going to actually not remember his full name, but he's doing those technology in 100 seconds. And
yes.
recently, actually, he's done a Firebase in 100
The free
seconds.
free code, what fire
No,
camp or fire code, something like that.
let me look him up actually. 100 seconds.
Get, for
Fire
example.
ship. Oh yeah. So the website is Fireship. Oops.
Yes, Fireship. Yes, yes.
Fireship.io.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'll share something with the audience. I learned to code. So the name is Jeff Delaney. Let me paste that actually for everyone. Jeff Delaney, Fireship.io, or this is the YouTube channel. So here's my story actually. I don't know if I've shared that before. So I used to be a developer like now 20 years ago. Visual Basic .NET developer, so not the sharpest one. I've never really considered myself a fantastic developer at the time, but I stopped developing for about 15 years. I've never had Visual Studio Code open or anything like that. And then I started New Camp, and I had to get back into it, obviously. When we started New Camp, Angular was the number one framework. So React was growing rapidly, but Angular was the number one framework. And at the time, Jeff Delaney was a Google Angular type of guy. He's expanded since then. But I learned from him. I learned Stripe integration from Jeff Delaney. And he has a really crisp style. It's not for everyone. He's super fast, but it's straight to the point, very sharp editing of the video. So it goes very fast. You have to pause the time. Yeah.
Yes, you have to delay the acceleration of the video in order to understand what he's trying to give you.
That's right. But he's brilliant. He's brilliant. And I think since doing what he's like 1 million subscribers now. He's a celebrity, I think. I haven't checked on him recently, but yeah, anyway, he has that series 100 seconds of pretty much everything. And that's a great way to learn.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Do we have any additional questions from the audience? Oh yeah, Zandra is saying we're getting our previous conversation on data science. It's like driving a truck. Before driving a truck, you want to get your driver's license, and maybe you want to drive a car.
Yes.
Before getting to the truck. All right. Any additional questions? No. So I want to ask you, for me, Vodafone, they have big networks. They're probably, I'm imagining that they are very conservative in how they deploy application.
Yes.
How much has a company like Vodafone embraced agile deployment, CI/CD?
Yes.
They're on the risk of just shutting down their whole network if something goes wrong, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
Can you, I totally see, CI/CD, deploying with your phone in startups. How does that work really when you're a Vodafone, when you're a big company that has such a responsibility for their customers?
Yes. So Vodafone started, I believe, at 2019 when I just joined. So they was migrating from waterfall model to agile model. And they was going for mass hiring. So they're hiring a lot of developers. And they, of course, empower the DevOps team. So the DevOps team, when it comes to deployment and so on, actually, they don't hire new DevOps engineers. They already have some potential DevOps engineers. This was coming from my team, the integration team.
Yeah,
they
IT operations.
Yeah.
We used to be just traditional IT operations. Yeah,
no, there wasn't an operations. There was developers, but they have a lot of potential about Jenkins pipelines. We created the Jenkins pipeline and so on. Then the management of Vodafone decided, okay, we're gonna make you a DevOps team. They collect different talented, and they actually was super talented people in the DevOps engineer team, up into the senior manager and the top management staff. And they enforce Vodafone to have this opportunity to buy the OpenShift Kubernetes and deploy it in Vodafone data centers, to be able to run spin up on containers and run our websites, and so that, hey, if you want millions and millions of customers, you should have this infrastructure. We can't rely on virtualizations only. We need to have some container orchestration software, and they rely on Red Hat OpenShift. And this is why they got back in 2019 or 2020, the year of COVID, Anna Vodafone application was one of the most downloaded applications this year, alongside with TikTok, Facebook, and so on in Egypt. So it was a great journey, and actually showed up in Google Analytics. And to create the CI/CD systems, the monitoring, the alerting, especially when you are in on-prem data centers, it's really challenging. You can't go for, let's say, solutions like open source solution and deploy it on production. There is a lot of monitoring, a lot of security patching going on. Can't lead this monitoring script. So they rely on talents. They rely on a good talents of people. And this is how they achieve it. The people management, of course, the facility of trying things, break things, and the accountability they gave to the candidate to try things out. This is how they manage it. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's a huge,
what you're describing is they have to. I mean, if they want to continue to grow, gain market
yes,
share,
yes,
there is no other way for them to deploy applications that can serve millions of customers. Everyone accepts nowadays that they're going to get their phone, they're going to
yeah,
download the app, they're going to use the app, and the old ways of doing it, having your own data center, just doesn't cut it. They just can't do it. So I
yeah,
understand now. It's like they have been historically conservative, but they cannot afford to stay conservative, because if they do
yes,
that, it has a direct impact on their bottom line, meaning they're not going
yeah,
to gain as many new customers, they're not going to make as much money. They
yes,
have to be agile, or they could die.
yes,
Pretty much, they could have a
yes.
competitor that's more agile than them, and they'll die. That's
Yeah, yeah. So
crazy.
this is
That's crazy.
actually one of the things Vodafone is leading on when it comes to applying new things. So
Yeah,
we have in Egypt like 3 or 4 telecom providers, and Vodafone was the first one to implement Agile. The first one is to go for containerizations and OpenShift.
yeah,
And they test it out. They go for a 5 years plan. We need to move from this state because they know 5 years from now, people will go for the stores or go for a physical shop to just check a balance or recharge my balance and
yeah.
so on and pay my bills. I will open my app and just do it like
Yeah,
this.
so retail is gone. So I mean, yeah, you're right. It's funny where I live. There used to be a big flagship
Store.
Play Store, yeah, for AT&T. You know, uh, the main corner of Bellevue, pretty much. There was a big flagship store for AT&T, and it's gone.
Yes,
Like,
yes, yes,
I think you're right. I mean, they realize that the retail locations don't mean anything. Microsoft closed their stores recently as well. It was a big
yes, yes,
deal, but they're like, best. I mean, and it's kind of sad because, of course, that changes the landscape of your city, and suddenly you're like, okay, what's going to be there?
yes, yes. If you can
But
buy a
yeah, I
car
mean,
from a website like Tesla, for example, you can buy a car
yeah,
from a website. You can order it online.
yeah,
So why
that's right.
not recharge or pay bills or maybe buy laptops or a PC? This is the way the world is shifting to, moving from maybe physical things to
Yeah,
digitalizations. And for developers and engineers, for anyone in the world that want to shift and go for this, even if you are a junior developer, senior, or a manager, you should understand this is you cannot do it in the traditional way. You need to be
yeah.
digitalizing. You should have a digital channel for your services and so on.
Oh, that's great. So we're getting close to the end of the show. I want to ask you, Ahmed. You are a learner. You have a passion. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years? Where do you want to? Yeah, how do you envision your career? Where will your passion take you? I guess.
Yes. So I didn't think about 10 or 5 years. I only think like I have a plan for this year. So
Okay.
or the second year, 2 years period. So in order, I have like 3 main goals, like training or self-taught or skills that I need to gain, even if it's soft skills or a technical skills. And there is a goal that I need to be in. So I need to be really familiar with this in order to be in a management part. When it comes, I can take decisions on to planning and infrastructure. This is right now my goal to the end of the year. So if you, for example, come to me and say, okay, now I have my infrastructure on this maybe cloud provider, I need to shift to this cloud provider, or I need to try things out. As you said, the 6 months planning when it comes to back in the days, it's still there, but it's different. So I need to teach myself and be in the positions that, okay, in order to make this shift, it will cost you 1, 2, 3, 4. It will give you
I
an
see.
advantage of 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So this is my target right now. I
So
don't
in a
know.
in a consultative type of
Yeah,
role where you can
yeah,
analyze your
yes,
customers' needs and kind of
yes,
recommend solutions and manage that deployment for them. Gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And so so I was in that situation. I mean, at the very beginning, actually, year 3 in my career when I was in France, I was working at
yeah.
Microsoft
This is
Consulting.
my year 3 actually. Yes.
No, but so I was a Microsoft consultant. So I was actually kind of doing what you were describing. Pretty much at the time, there was no cloud, there was no DevOps. There
Yes.
was Windows Server deployment on hardware,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's what we were doing. I mean, there's a ton of, Accenture, Ahmed, Capgemini. There's a ton of companies like that, and I'm sure actually Vodafone has probably also teams that can advise their own customers on deployment,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that must be interesting. Hey, so it's 4 p.m. here, 2 a.m. for you.
Yeah. Yes.
I really, really want to thank you for joining the show so late. It's really a pleasure to have you with us as an instructor. We didn't talk about, like, some people are asking, some actually people who live in Egypt or somewhere else, not in the US, are wondering, okay, can I learn to code and get a job remotely in the US? The answer is
Yes.
yes. Ahmed is doing it. Um, it's tough from a timing standpoint, but apparently you're enjoying it, and as we are. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you,
Thank you,
Alia,
guys. And
Code,
thank you.
Finn, for joining. And we'll talk soon online. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Take care.
Thank you so much. Take care, guys.
All right. See ya.
See you guys.